Hello and welcome. I'm Tom.
And I'm Amy.
Today we're tackling something really interesting, a topic we all sort of know is crucial, but maybe don't always consciously prioritize. Building mature, meaningful relationships.
Absolutely. It's fascinating, isn't it? How we all agree relationships are vital, right up there with like healthy eating and exercise, yet actually putting in the effort to cultivate them often gets pushed way down the list.
Yeah, it really does.
We've pulled together some really insightful sources today, including a great discussion with psychologist Kama Wuchkiewicz to help us explore how we can, build these essential connections in a more deliberate and frankly fulfilling way.
Okay, so our mission today is basically to unpack all this information, pull out the key nuggets, and hopefully help you navigate the, let's face it, complexities of modern relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at why they matter so much, maybe some pitfalls we all stumble into, and get some practical insights on fostering connections that feel genuinely meaningful. So yeah, let's get started.
Okay. Well, one of the things that really jumps out, especially from talking with Kama Wuchkiewicz, is this big contrast. We know we need relationships, but our actual approach, it can be pretty superficial sometimes.
Right.
We know they're important, maybe as vital as diet or working out, but intentionally working on them, that often takes a back seat.
Definitely.
And instead, we often grab for those quick fixes, like those 5-step guides to avoiding toxic narcissists you see online.
Oh yeah, those are everywhere.
Exactly. And they oversimplify things, don't they? Real human connection is messy. It's nuanced.
It really is. And it seems like we become, well, almost obsessed with self-improvement, haven't we? The sources talk about this kind of new religion of self-perfection, where we're just constantly crafting this image, always trying to seem attractive, desirable, competent.
It sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. And the irony, as the sources point out, is that this terror of self-perfection,
Right.
it hasn't actually made us happier or our relationships deeper.
No, quite the opposite, actually. It seems to have led to more atomization,
Yeah.
Society sort of fragmenting into these isolated individuals.
Pushing us further apart.
Yeah, exactly. Leaving loads of people feeling really quite isolated, even though we're technically more connected than ever through technology. That constant chase for self-betterment can, paradoxically, make us feel more alone.
So, okay, if focusing just on ourselves isn't the answer for connection, what is the real value here? Especially when things get tough.
Yeah.
Our sources are really clear on this. Relationships are just this fundamental support system. It's often in those hardest moments that they really show their worth.
You've absolutely hit on a key point. Think about those crises we all face or might face, divorce, losing a job, moving somewhere new, even just the daily grind of raising kids. It's so often those deep relationships that act as an anchor, right? That keep people grounded, stop them from completely, spiraling.
That makes sense.
Kama Wuchkiewicz used this really powerful analogy, the idea of being held. Yeah, like a young mother holds her child, right? Physically, emotionally, but then her partner holds her, offering support. And then the wider community, friends, family, they hold the partner. It's like layers of support. Everyone needs to be held by someone, basically.
Wow. That's a really sobering thought, isn't it? That we often only realize how much we need that support when we're already falling apart.
Or worse, yeah. The crisis hits and you look around and those relationships just aren't strong enough or maybe aren't even there.
It really highlights how relationships can be this protective shield almost against the long-term fallout from tough times. Building them isn't just nice, it's like building resilience.
Exactly. Essential resilience.
Okay, so if they're that vital, how do we actually build and nurture them before the crisis hits, before we're forced to see what's missing? Should we start by, doing an audit of the people in our lives?
Audit. I'd probably shy away from that word a little. It sounds a bit cold. Like an Excel sheet where you just cut people off.
Yeah, okay, fair point.
Maybe think of it more like a verification or maybe reconnaissance. It's about looking around and seeing who really supports you, who makes you feel good, who lets you just be yourself, without feeling like you have to perform all the time.
Okay. Identifying where that genuine connection is.
Exactly. It's about finding those places where you feel seen and accepted.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just looking outwards at our circle, but also turning inwards. Looking at our own stuff.
Precisely. That's the second piece, and it's just as crucial, a kind of self-verification. Asking ourselves, okay, what patterns do I keep repeating in relationships?
Oh, boy.
right? Why do I always clash with this type of friend? Or why do I keep ending up with partners who seem different but actually have the, same deficits, just a different body?
Ah, yeah. I think we've all been there.
It's about owning our part in those dynamics, understanding the role we play. Are you always the fixer, the rescuer, the one who avoids conflict? Recognizing that is huge.
And that leads to another point, doesn't it? Are we keeping relationships going out of genuine connection? Or just because we feel we should?
Oh, absolutely.
Like hanging on to those old college friends because, well, you ought to, even if your lives and values are completely different now.
That should is so powerful, isn't it? It can really drive behavior without us even realizing it. And, while self-reflection is great, we also need to be a bit careful.
Careful how?
Well, careful about this modern tendency to, overdiagnose everyone, slapping labels like toxic or narcissist on people based on some checklist we saw online.
Right, the armchair psychology thing.
Exactly. It can create this kind of paranoia where suddenly everyone seems problematic. And while recognizing unhealthy dynamics is important, this quick labeling can actually push people away, maybe even break bonds that could have been repaired. It can lead to real loneliness. It's a bit like all that conflicting diet advice out there. Too many rigid rules can just make you anxious and confused.
Okay, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Now, things get tricky in adulthood,
Yeah.
especially after college, maybe early career. Finding new people, deepening friendships, it just feels harder.
It really does.
Time gets squeezed, responsibilities pile up, work, mortgages, maybe kids, caring for parents. Do our relationships just inevitably get shallower?
Not necessarily shallower, I don't think, but definitely less spontaneous.
Yeah.
Our daily life doesn't have that built-in proximity anymore like school or uni did. You're not just bumping into people constantly.
True.
So maintaining relationships as an adult, it takes conscious effort, real compromise. Kama Otkevich made a great point. If you constantly give off the vibe that you're always busy, guess what? People stop calling.
Right. They assume you don't have time.
Exactly. We have to actively make space for connection. Schedule it in, just like you'd schedule a meeting or a gym session. Be intentional about it.
So thinking about this for you, the listener,
Yeah.
a really crucial question to ask yourself is, what do I actually want from my relationship? What does closeness really mean to me?
That is absolutely key. And connecting that self-awareness to your core values is vital. Because closeness looks so different for different people.
Okay.
For one person, it might be a coffee catch-up once a month. For someone else, it needs to be weekly calls or daily texts. If your needs for connection constantly clash with a friend's definition, well, that's a signal, isn't it?
Yeah, a signal to maybe adjust expectations or talk about it, or maybe even look for connections that are a better fit.
Exactly. It's about understanding your own personal blueprint for what feels right.
And I think so many of us, myself definitely included, sometimes fall into this trap of expecting one person, usually our romantic partner, to be everything.
Oh, the one-person trap.
Yeah, best friend, lover, therapist, co-parent, financial advisor, adventure buddy, all rolled into one. Like the source said, expecting one person to do the job of an entire village.
It's just an impossible burden, and it almost always leads to frustration, right? Because no one person can meet every single need we have.
Yeah.
Sometimes your colleague is actually the best person to vent to about work stress, maybe better than your partner in that specific instance. Or your sibling is the one you reminisce with about childhood stuff.
Right, different people for different things.
Exactly. These are sometimes called situational relationships. Different people support different parts of your life. And that's not using people. It's just recognizing that not every relationship needs to be all-encompassing. It actually takes the pressure off and it's healthier.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, this next idea sounds a bit complex. Relationships built on feeding mutual deficits. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's a really fascinating psychological concept. Sometimes it's called the chemistry of schemas.
Okay.
So imagine this dynamic. One person, maybe because they have this deep fear of abandonment, always pushes for closeness when there's conflict. They need to talk it out right now.
I know that type.
While their partner, may be fearing being overwhelmed or criticized, always withdraws. They retreat into work or hobbies or just shut down.
Ah, the push-pull.
Exactly. Their individual issues, their deficits, they actually fuel each other. The more one pushes, the more the other pulls away. It creates this really rigid cycle where they can never actually resolve anything.
And they're stuck.
Totally stuck. Because weirdly, our brains are kind of wired to find familiar patterns attractive, even if those patterns aren't actually good for us.
So wait, it's not that the withdrawer doesn't want closeness or the pusher doesn't want space.
Not necessarily, no. That's the crucial part. Often, both partners desperately crave both closeness and autonomy, but their deep-seated fears trigger these automatic, unhelpful reactions.
Got it. Fear takes over.
Yeah. The withdrawer might fear being controlled or failing expectations. The pusher might fear being left or ignored. Therapy often works on breaking these rigid patterns, helping people try different responses and understand what the other person really needs underneath the reaction.
So for us, for the listener, the starting point is recognizing those patterns in ourselves first.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is always the first step. Before you even think about the other person, what are my default reactions?
And how do we even begin to get that kind of self-awareness, especially when these patterns often start way back in childhood and just feel normal?
Yeah, they're deeply ingrained. Well, one way is to explore what psychologists sometimes call your lifeline.
Lifeline.
Yeah, think of it like mapping your emotional history. You look back at significant life events, big transitions, successes, losses, moments that really stand out, good or bad, and then you look for themes, for recurring patterns.
Okay.
Like maybe you notice repeated experiences of feeling abandoned, which might point to a core belief about not being worthy or something like that. Another really powerful tool is the genogram.
Genogram. Sounds technical.
It's basically a detailed family tree, but it goes beyond just names and dates. It tracks recurring family themes across generations, things like addiction, divorce patterns, specific family roles people tend to fall into.
Get the black sheep or the hero.
Exactly. The rescuer, the rebel, the peacemaker. It can also track things like chronic illness patterns. It gives you this much bigger picture, showing how these intergenerational patterns might still be influencing your life today.
And what's often mind-blowing for people is realizing that even kids in the same family essentially grew up with different parents.
Oh, absolutely. That's such a key insight. Kama Wachkiewicz talked about this, that a younger child might have parents who are less anxious than they were with the firstborn.
Right, or maybe family finances were different, or they were partly raised by an older sibling.
Exactly. It completely shapes their reality and the roles they naturally step into. You get the golden child, maybe, who meets all the expectations, or the invisible child who feels overlooked.
Or the scapegoat.
Yes. Understanding these dynamics can be so liberating. It helps you see that you weren't solely responsible for creating these patterns. It's not about blaming anyone, it's just about understanding the system you came from.
It also shines a light on the hidden costs these patterns can have, right? Like someone who learned as a kid that the only way to get attention was to be sick.
Might unconsciously keep doing that as an adult.
Yeah. Needing to be ill to feel connected.
It's a really profound point, and that sickness can become genuinely physical psychosomatic symptoms.
Mhm.
Real health problems like IBS, chronic pain, migraines, things that often respond better to psychological help than just medical treatment alone.
Wow. That's a heavy cost for connection.
It truly is. So for you, the listener, if you find yourself stuck in cycles of unexplained physical issues, even after checking things out medically, it might be worth gently exploring if there are deeper psychological roots connected to these relationship patterns. It's about that holistic view.
Taking a step back now, looking at the bigger picture, are we kind of living in an age that just flat out rewards hyper-individualism, hyper-independence?
It certainly feels that way sometimes, doesn't it?
You can get anything delivered, access private health care instantly.
It seems like you could almost eliminate the need for other people in your day-to-day life.
Well, I agree with the observation. Our modern systems definitely make it possible to be incredibly independent. You can theoretically arrange your life to minimize reliance on others, but do I think it actually negates our fundamental human need for others? Absolutely not.
Okay.
The historian Christopher Lasch wrote about this way back in the 70s in The Culture of Narcissism. He basically predicted it. He saw how the breakdown of traditional structures, community, family, religion, would lead us to kind of worship the self, to focus intensely on image, competence, self-gratification.
So that terror of self-perfection we talked about earlier doesn't actually lead to happiness.
No, it leads straight to that atomization, that fragmentation, and deep loneliness. You know, maybe the dream for young people today isn't being a rock star anymore, it's being an influencer.
Right. Seems more attainable, maybe. Perhaps. But it often focuses on this very hollow influencing, doesn't it? It's all about the image, the external validation, and that leaves this constant hunger for approval from outside, rather than the deep satisfaction that comes from actually contributing to a community, being known, being valued for who you really are.
It's funny you say that. I actually had a personal experience with this recently. I moved from a huge anonymous city to a much smaller town.
Oh, interesting. How is that?
It was a massive shift. Suddenly, I knew my neighbors. Like, knew their names, their kids, their cars.
Yeah.
It almost forces this interdependence. You ask for help, you offer help, you borrow things, you lend things.
Right.
In the city, it felt like money just bought services. You replaced connection.
Yeah.
You pay someone for everything. Here, there's more mutual reliance.
That's a fantastic example, and it really highlights this deep longing I think many of us have for a real community, that
Yeah.
sense of mutual exchange, not just transactions.
Yeah.
Money, in a way, can become this tool to control things, to control other people even, to avoid being vulnerable, to avoid having to ask for help and maybe be disappointed.
Right. It creates a buffer.
Exactly. And relying on money to smooth over everything, even moments of real need, it's quite sad when you think about it. It isolates us from core human experiences.
It reminds me of that Jim Carrey quote, wishing everyone could get rich and famous just to see it's not the answer. And look, obviously money helps. It reduces stress, improves life satisfaction, especially if basic needs aren't met. We're not denying that.
Of course not. For someone really struggling, extra income can mean access to vital support, better food, therapy, things that absolutely impact well-being.
But beyond a certain point.
Beyond a certain point, that human connection piece, it's just irreplaceable. No amount of money can buy genuine belonging or intimacy. So for you, the listener, maybe consider that cost of hyper-independence. Are you using money, or maybe just keeping people at arm's length, to shield yourself from needing others, and maybe even from being needed? It's something to reflect on.
Okay, so as we start to wrap this up, thinking about everything we've covered, what's maybe one key piece of advice you'd offer someone who wants to build more conscious, more fulfilling connections? I could share a couple of things that have helped me personally.
Please do.
First, really trying to honestly assess if someone actually has the capacity or maybe the skill to help with a specific need I have.
Right.
Helps avoid setting myself up for disappointment later, you know?
Yeah, smart. Managing expectations.
Yeah. And second, I've really learned to value advice from people with deep life experience.
Yeah.
Even if they're not totally up on the latest trends or jargon, their wisdom often cuts right through. It's universal.
Those are both excellent, really practical points. I love that. For me, I think, a really crucial thing has been engaging in that deep self-reflection we talked about. Understanding my own patterns, yes, but also getting really clear on what genuinely brings me joy and feels authentic. Not just what society expects or what I think I should want.
Defining your own values.
Exactly. Defining my core values, separate from all the external noise, has been like finding a compass. And honestly, sometimes that's meant making tough choices, letting go of relationships that over time just weren't aligned anymore with who I was becoming.
That can be hard.
It can be really hard. But paradoxically, those losses, as you might see them, actually created space for much deeper, more compatible connections to grow. Connections built on real resonance, not just obligation or old habits.
Choosing authenticity over obligation.
Yes, that's it exactly. It's not always easy, but ultimately it leads to bonds that feel much more profound and genuinely satisfying.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. If we accept that relationships are truly fundamental and that maybe modern life makes them a bit harder to cultivate sometimes, what's one small, intentional step you could take this week? Just one thing. To bridge a gap, offer some support, or just consciously make space for a real connection in your life. It might just be the most valuable thing you do.
Well said.
Thank you for your attention. You can subscribe to our show if you like it.
See you next time.